Oh yes, I did just make a reference to the Phantom Menace in the title of this video.
In the year 20XX AD, a vicious army of robots is bent on destroying the world. And behind this destruction is... Proto Man!
And thus we're introduced to the third best title theme in the entire Mega Man series. Yep, it is that good. This is the Mississippi King welcoming y'all back to my next LP, Let's Play Mega Man 5. So hello Mississippi Dukes. But now, we're introduced to another set of Robot Masters, by far the blandest in the series so far. We have Stone Man, Charge Man, Wave Man, Star Man, Gyro Man, Napalm Man, Crystal Man, and Gravity Man. So we're actually going to be tackling Gyro Man first. And, yeah, one thing I feel I should praise this game for is the music is just stellar. It's much better than that of Mega Man 4's. With that said, though, I mean, I know I've been praising the Mega Man series to death, but, well, I mean, this game isn't exactly a bad game, and there are a lot of things that I enjoy about it. It's well designed from a technical perspective, but it just feels kinda stale. The Robot Masters are by far the blandest in the series so far. Well, the blandest in the series, period. Like, out of all the games, this is the most forgettable set of Robot Masters. And what I will say, though, is that the music is stellar. I don't know if I'd say it's the best soundtrack in the series, or even, like, up there with Mega Man 2 or 3, but it is still awesome, and it's definitely a lot better than the soundtrack of Mega Man 4. However, with that aside, the game itself, I really don't think stands up to Mega Man 2, 3, or 4, and I realize my position is kind of in the minority, where I think that Mega Man 4 isn't just a great game, but one that stands up alongside Mega Man 2 and 3. So, I mean, my position is a bit unorthodox, but as far as this game, yeah, I pretty much agree with the general consensus. It's just kind of a stale game, and it kind of lacks a lot of innovation. And to be clear, as I've said before, this is not a bad game. It's well designed from a technical perspective, but I just don't enjoy it. It's actually kind of interesting to compare and contrast this game with the original Mega Man game, because that was kind of an interesting story, because the original game was... It had some terrible design decisions, and it was really janky and flawed in a lot of ways, and there were tons of glitches, but, you know, as far as it was just overall a fun experience, even though it had a lot of technically terrible design decisions that, well, are awful. You see, the first Mega Man game had horribly exploitable AI. It had lazy copy-and-paste level design. Seriously, who designed that stuff? The Sonic Bandit... Oh, sorry, that slipped out. And game-breaking glitches, one of which I happened to record on video. It also had some rather iffy controls, but this game has none of that. However, it's not exactly one that I'd say is particularly masterful. I can't fault it for anything, but at the same time, it's not really a fantastic game either. And the glitches in the first Mega Man game were terrible. In this game, while I'm sure there are glitches, and there are some good design decisions, for the most part, who thought crap like this was a good idea? It, just generally isn't as interesting. But I guess it balances out because it's like, this game is well designed from a technical standpoint, but it's not, like, super enjoyable. And, you know how that is. It just doesn't feel as interesting. The Robot Masters are bland. But nevertheless, I do still enjoy this game. And on a side note, Gyro Man, apparently he likes Greek sandwiches. I'm guessing that's a reference to like some sort of Greek thing, some sort of... I think there's a Greek sandwich called a gyro, but I don't know. Supposed to be a pun, but it just goes way over my head. I'm not very familiar with Greek sandwiches. Also, you gotta love how I died to him the first time and then I beat him without taking any hits. Lovely consistency there. But the info you may be seeing for Gyro Man, that may look simple or ridiculously boring, but that is legitimately what it says. It actually says, in the interests of cost, the original flying device is replaced by the propeller. Even the people who wrote the Mega Man and Base CD database can't come up with anything interesting about these Robot Masters. The weapon we get from Gyro Man is the Gyro attack, and so that must be real awesome, right? It's okay. It's not bad, but there are better weapons in the Mega Man series. It's not particularly great. It does its job. It's kind of more of a strategic thing, but it's not bad, not great either. It certainly works better than some weapons. It's better than, like, the top spin. And it's certain there are worse weapons in this game. In fact, this game has two of the worst weapons in the entire series. But, we won't be seeing either of them in this video, so, that's for the next one, because I do not intend to tackle the ones with them terrible items, so... yeah, look forward to that! I'm gonna have a lot to say about them when we get to it. Basically, the gyro attack works by, like, you can press up or down, and that's when it will move up or down, but you can't change directions after you choose up or down. So you can only choose one of the projectile you fire to move up or down. And it can be useful to get enemies at different elevations, but it's not that great. Again, there are worse weapons, but there are also better ones, too. Honestly, the weapon selection in this game is kind of bland. It's lackluster, to be clear. I mean, it's not like the weapons aren't good. Many of them are, but they don't contain very many useful applications. But also, sorry about this, but in Starman's stage, like, since we're in outer space, there's actually a low-gravity gimmick that actually functions similar to underwater, except that, like, it's always that way. And that's really neat. I like a lot of the level design in this game. You know, I've been complaining about the game a noticeable amount, but it's not bad. There are a lot of things that I love about this game. And there are worse games I have played. But as for Starman's info card, yeah, it says a robot created for space exploitation. That is all it says. Really. That's all they could come up with. And bear in mind, they ripped off the Starman from Super Mario Brothers, and still he's not very interesting. Seriously, these Robot Masters just look like every other Robot Master ever. They are by far the most generic, and I think they have the least personality. And bear in mind, there are games that are worse. It's not a terrible game, and I really enjoy a lot of the level design. We haven't even reached some of them, but Gravity Man's stage is genius. I absolutely love that stage. And that's one of the things I feel I do enjoy about this game. But anyways, Starman's weapon is the Star Crash, and unlike the Skull Barrier, at least I think, you can actually shoot it in any direction by pressing the shoot button in combination with the D-pad. So it's slightly more useful than the Skull Barrier, but again, the Skull Barrier wasn't particularly great either. It does come in handy here, though. You can use it to protect yourself against these falling crystals, which can be quite a nuisance without the Star Crash. I mean, I guess you could also maybe use Rush Jet to, like, tank your way through it, but I don't know, I just don't really like doing that. And here we're introduced to Wide-Eyed Joes, that could be what they're called. Maybe they're Jazz Joes? I don't know, what do they call Internet? Something Joe. But they basically just shoot a crystal, and it charges at you and you can slide under it, but you can't actually shoot into the crystal itself. They're sort of like the Albuquerque Joes from Mega Man 3. No, that was actually Mega Man 4, my bad. They're like the G.I. Joes from Mega Man 3. That could be what they're called, but basically, like, they're similar. You can't attack them until after they shoot. But they're pretty easy to deal with. And an interesting fact about Crystal Man is that he was actually designed by the same person who designs Dust Man in the last game. So it's like, instead of doing like for Dust Man, it was the same guy who would later go on to write the novel, or the manga, One Punch Man. And while I haven't seen One Punch Man, I have seen a lot of the art style, and I do know that the guy doing it can, in fact, draw. He's a talented artist, but, I mean, this is probably his weakest work. Of course, then again, I'm not very familiar with his work, so I guess I'm not very qualified to say that. But nevertheless, it's the worst I've seen, because it's like, it's not bad, but it's just sort of bland. And you know how that is. Nevertheless, we're gonna fight Crystal Man, which is, that's kind of interesting that he ended up contributing 2 Robot Masters to the series. And Crystal Man I find to be rather bland and uninteresting. But anyway, as for his characteristics, well, apparently he likes fortune telling and he dislikes scientists. Oh, and also the info card doesn't actually say Censor created him to earn money. I actually know who created him, and the info card said, the actual info says something different. But we're not going to say who actually created him because that's a bit of a spoiler. And so I censored it out. So, we're going to talk about who created him later, and he dislikes scientists. He also has a fishy attitude, apparently, if the info is to be believed. And, well, yeah, Crystal Man strikes me as the kind of person who would have a very fishy attitude. I don't know, just rubs me the wrong way. Like he rubs a crystal ball and can see the future. Must not be very good at it because he couldn't foresee that I would destroy him! So his weapon, the Crystal Eye, must be awesome, right? It's alright. It's not terrible, but there are better weapons. Basically, you shoot a big crystal ball, and when it hits a wall, then it splits into three that bounce along different pathways. One of them goes straight back, the other two go up or down, diagonally up or down, that is. And it can be useful, but it's alright. It's no Pharaoh shot or anything like that. But now we're on Wave Man's stage, which is honestly a great stage. It's one of my favorites in the game, in fact. Mainly because, it's kind of interesting because Wave Man is a robot master, a water robot master, but he doesn't actually... This stage actually has no underwater sections. Yes, you heard that right. His stage has 0 underwater sections, which may seem strange, but actually he is called Wave Man. So of course it makes sense that you'd be riding the surface of the water, which is exactly what we'll be doing later. And there's also a gimmick with, riding bubbles, which was later taken directly in Mega Man 9. It would later, reuse the whole thing. Also, an interesting fact about this game is that in Japan, it was originally called Rockman 5 Blues Trap. Blues is the Japanese name of Proto Man. So that's interesting. But, Wave Man's stage is really fun, I must admit. And of course the music is great. Also, you may have noticed the letters that we're collecting across all of these stages. There are actually 8 of them, and each of them spells out Mega Man 5. When we get all of them, then we'll actually gain access to a new invention of Dr. Cossack. Yes, that's an interesting tidbit about the story is that Dr. Cossack from the last game, I guess because he felt indebted to Mega Man after what he did to save him from Dr. Wily, he actually improved Mega Man's Mega Buster, and he also designed a new invention for him. What is that invention? We'll find out when we get all 8 of the plates. All the letters, that is. And yeah, Wave Man's stage has a part where you actually... It's an auto-scroller, so part of it is. So I guess I was mistaken when I said that apart from Mega Man 8, the auto-scrollers never return. I guess I just wasn't thinking of this game, so I was wrong, my bad. But I guess it just goes to show that how forgettable this game is. I mean, again, it's not the worst game I've played, but it's just kind of forgettable. I mean, if you were to show this to me as like my first Mega Man game, I probably would think this game is incredible. It's really that good. But as a Mega Man game, it's just kind of underwhelming. And as for Wave Man, the info card, once again, that is legitimately what it says. He is not good at close-range combat. That is all it says. Like, they could only think of that? Even the people who came up with this couldn't make the Robot Masters interesting. And you know, I love Wave Man's stage, but as a Robot Master himself, he's really bland. He just looks like every other water Robot Master ever. And his weapon must be awesome, right? It's alright. I know I've been saying that for all of the weapons, but that's kind of what I think about them. They're alright. The water wave isn't bad, but it's like the problem is that you can only use it on the ground, and there are a lot of enemies in the air, so it's like you could just like shoot it so that it could go down, but anyway, that's all for this episode. This is the Mississippi King signing out, and in the next video, we'll tackle the remaining 4 Robot Masters. See y'all then.